A1GP. Although the concept was promulgated by Sheikh Maktoum Hasha Maktoum Al Maktoum, who was a part of Dubai's ruling family in 2003, it wasn't until September 25, 2005 that A1 Grand Prix will hold its inaugural race at Brands Hatch. The ethos of the racing league was a nation-based competition and was often dubbed as the World Cup of Motorsport by utilizing single-make open-wheel race cars. A1GP stood out due to its nation versus nation type of competition, in contrast to that of the regular teams or manufacturers. Nelson Piquet Jr. would snag the victory in the first ever main race for Brazil, while Will Power and Salvador Duran completed the podium spot, and Max Verstappen's dad Jos recorded the first ever DNF in A1GP history after a crash in the first lap. A1GP chose to race mainly in European winter, so the races wouldn't clash with the bigger racing series. The races were held on all continents, including a race in Africa each season. The first generation of cars that were used from 2005 to 2008 were built by Lola and powered with a 3.4-litre Zytec V8 that topped out at around 550 horsepower with a push-to-pass boost feature. In 2008, Ferrari entered the scene with the chassis that drew inspiration from the Ferrari F2004 F1 design and a 4.5-litre V8 engine that maxed out at around 650 horsepower built by the Italian manufacturer. However, due to the rising costs that were exacerbated by the adoption of Ferrari cars, delays, and lack of sponsors, A1GP postponed the first 3 races of the 2009-2010 season in Australia, China, and Malaysia. Due to its financial insolvency, the season never went underway, and the World Cup of Motorsport folded after just 4 seasons. The best-known champion after those 4 seasons is Nico Hülkenberg, who won the title for Team Germany alongside his teammate Christian Vittoris in the 2006-2007 season. CART, or the Championship Auto Racing Teams, was founded by a breakaway faction of owners that were a part of the United States Auto Club or USAC's Championship Car division. Stating dissatisfaction with USAC's leadership and direction, CART was established in 1979 as a sanctioning body for American open-wheel racing. Given the prestige of owners that transferred to CART, such as Roger Penske and Pat Patrick, many prominent drivers transferred to the budding racing league. Emerson Fittipaldi, Nigel Mansell, Mario and Michael Andretti, and eventually Juan Pablo Montoya starred in CART. In addition, the popularity of CART was so immense that even though they weren't able to wrestle the flagship Indianapolis 500 away from the USAC in the beginning, the racing series was still regarded as the top IndyCar league in North America. The series mainly stood out for being brave enough in including street and road courses on its schedule, compared to the usual super speedways and ovals that the North American racing fans have been accustomed to. Such examples include visits to Watkins Glen and the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico. Now, throughout the 1980s and 1990s, teams could choose chassis from respected manufacturers such as Lola, March, Reynard, Penske, Swift, and Dan Gurney's Eagle program. Engines were manufactured by Cosworth with a DFX V8, before major automakers like Honda, Toyota, Mercedes-Benz, Ilmor, and Ford Cosworth entered the series in the 1990s, pushing the engines towards and even beyond 900 horsepower. CART ultimately began to encounter difficulties when Indianapolis Motor Speedway president Tony George established the Indy Racing League, or IRL, to rival the former in 1996. Upon its debut, CART lost the Indianapolis 500 to IRL, and combined with the rising cost and decreasing sponsorship, it ultimately declared bankruptcy in 2003. It was resurrected as the Champ Car World Series in 2004, before merging with IRL in 2008 to form the present-day IndyCar Series. FIA GT1 Championship. Founded in 2010 to succeed the FIA GT Championship that ran from 1997 to 2009, the GT1 Championship was sanctioned by the FIA and focused on GT1 spec cars. The cars resembled that of roadworthy vehicles, but were heavily modified for auto racing with the Aston Martin DB-R9, Nissan GT-R, Ford GT, and Lamborghini Murcielago RSV, all gracing the series. They generally featured front or mid-mountain engines producing around 600 to 650 horsepower, often from large V8 or V12 units such as the 6.0-litre V12 in the Aston Martin DB-R9, the 6.5-litre V12 in the Lamborghini Murcielago RSV, and the twin-turbo V6 in the Nissan GT-R. The GT1 Championship championed diversity when it came to its schedule, as it kicked off the year at the Yas Marina circuit in the UAE with stops in Silverstone, Paul Ricard, Spa-Francorchamps, Portimao, Sao Paulo and Argentina. The series tried to pivot from GT1 to GT2 and GT3 cars in 2012 due to rising costs and poor car counts. However, no GT2 team showed up as no one wanted to take a gamble in the struggling league. This led to GT3 cars populating the GT1 Championship for its final year in 2012 that was won by the man, the myth, the legend, Marcus Winkelhock and Mark Bassand before it was succeeded by the FIA GT Series in 2013. Can-Am Series. Founded as a joint venture between the Sports Car Club of America and the Canadian Automobile Sports Clubs, the Canadian-American Challenge Cup, or Can-Am, was founded in 1966. It implemented Group 7 regulations, meaning that modifications in cars such as the engines, aerodynamics, and turbocharging were almost unregulated. It also means that as long as a car has 2 seats, a chassis enclosing the wheels, and passed the basic safety standards, it was allowed to compete. Manufacturers like Lola and Chaparral abused this rule, giving them success in some of the most peculiar-looking cars ever deployed on a track. It kicked off at Circuit Mont-Tremblant with stops at Bridgehampton Race Circuit, Motorsport Park, Laguna Seca, Riverside and Stardust for its inaugural season. McLaren dominated the early days of Can-Am with 5 consecutive titles with drivers such as its founder Bruce McLaren and Denny Hume. When Porsche introduced its 91710 and 91730, Can-Am created some buzz as the vehicles were regarded as the most powerful road racing cars ever produced. Can-Am's original stint ended in 1974, when the oil crisis hit the series hard along with the lack of sponsorship. It was revived in 1977 as it utilized converted Formula 5000 cars, but the spark and original innovation was lacking, leading to a shutdown in 1987. Nevertheless, it's still remembered for its goofy-looking cars and for pushing engineering and racing technology up to this day. Formula TT. Simplified as Formula TT, the Tourist Trophy Formula was started in 1977 by the International Motorcycling Federation as the official World Cup for motorbikes. It originally centered around the legendary Isle of Man TT, which gave the series its name, and included several engine-based classes such as TT F1 up to 1000cc 4 strokes, TT2 up to 600cc, and TT3 up to 400cc. The racing featured high-speed, high-risk events on real roads, attracting major manufacturers like Honda, Suzuki, and Yamaha. Honda in particular dominated with stars such as Joey Dunlop, who won multiple TT F1 titles. From 1979, races in Ulster, Portugal, Assen, Brno, Zolder, Hockenheim, and Jerez would eventually be added to the calendar. However, due to the establishment of a rival series in the form of the Superbike World Championship in 1988, Formula TT was forced to close its doors in 1990. F3000. Established in 1985 by the FIA as the feeder series to Formula 1 and just above Formula 3, F3000 was named so as to emphasize the 3.0-litre engines that the cars in the series carry. Throughout the late 1980s and 1990s, F3000 became the most prestigious proving ground before F1, producing major talents such as Jean Alesi, Damon Hill, Juan Pablo Montoya, and Fernando Alonso. The series increasingly shifted towards standardization, eventually adopting a single-make formula with Lola chassis and Zytec engines to control costs and equalize competition. The category was further divided into subgroups, such as the most prestigious International Formula 3000 Championship, the British Formula 3000, Euro Formula 3000, the American Racing Series, Formula Nippon, and Formula Holden. Due to dwindling numbers, the main series being the International Formula 3000 Championship was replaced with GP2 in 2005 with Renault backing. World Sports Car Championship. Widely regarded as one of the most prestigious racing series and the only other major world championship that was sanctioned by the FIA in circuit motor racing during its existence, the World Sports Car Championship started in 1953 and ran for 5 decades. Although it underwent several name and regulation changes, it started out as an avenue for gentlemen drivers with backing from the world's biggest auto manufacturers. In its early years, GT and sports cars were featured in the series, such as the Jaguar D-Type, Ferrari 250 Testarossa, and Aston Martin DBR1. However, as time went by, purpose-built cars flooded into the series, with the Porsche 908, 917 and Ferrari 512s making their debut, and at the same time, Group 5 silhouette cars garnered all the craze, with BMW 3.0 CSL and Porsche 935 seeing action. Subsequently, Group C prototypes like the Jaguar XJR9 and Sauber Mercedes C9 made their way to the grid as the most advanced vehicles that the league ever saw. Similar to Can-Am, technology and development were pushed to the limit as the series gradually grew through the years. The World Sports Car Championship also boasted some of motorsport's biggest events, including the 24 Hours of Le Mans, 12 Hours of Sebring, 1,000 kilometers of Nürburgring, and the 24 Hours of Daytona. Due to rising costs brought about by development, manufacturers slowly left the series after realizing that the engines that they've developed could compete in F1. The league's final season would be in 1992, as races scheduled for the following year were cancelled. It will eventually be resurrected in 2012 as the FIA World Endurance Championship, or WEC. International Touring Car Championship. A series that ran for just 1 year, the ITC of 1996 was the evolution of the German DTM as it ran international races in Japan, Brazil and the United States. The series featured advanced Class 1 vehicles that boasted 2.5-litre V6 engines that represented the highest technical level touring car racing had ever reached, with features like four-wheel drive, ABS, traction control, carbon brakes and sophisticated aerodynamics. Makers like Mercedes-Benz, Opel and Alfa Romeo were featured as several motorsport stars populated the field. Juan Pablo Montoya, Nicola Larini, Alessandro Nannini and Riccardo Zonta all made appearances in its sole season. The financial strain on manufacturers led both Alfa Romeo and Opel to withdraw at the season's end. With Mercedes left as the only committed competitor, the ITC was shut down after 1996. Bernd Schneider won the only driver's title, and although short-lived, the championship remains remembered for its extreme technology and ambitious global vision that ultimately exceeded its economic reality. Now, if you enjoyed this video, you may also want to watch this one next. Here I explain several racing series from all over the world. See you soon.